was utilizing the idea of moral imagination. Moral imagination is the ability to anticipate or project yourself in the middle of a moral dilemma. Not even having reached adolescence, she figured that segregationists, white supremacists were tortured by her existence. And she felt sorry for them. Ladies and gentlemen, I ain't even mad. I feel bad for the brown people who thought they were better than black people, who are now facing deportation. I feel bad for the white women who didn't realize they were the real DEI hires and were gonna lose their job. I feel bad for Columbia and Emory and Johns Hopkins losing $300, $400, and $800 million, but HBCUs ain't never had that kind of money. I feel bad for the Tesla dealerships that gotta close because they lost $900 billion since December because they forgot it ain't electricity, it's people that power this nation. I feel bad for them. A little bit, until I remember the words of that black sister with cornrows. Until you do right by me, nothing you do is gonna work. I tried to feel bad. I feel bad for those who persecute you for righteousness' sake, for they don't know that the kingdom of heaven is about to be yours. Today, I'm telling you, feel bad for your enemies because he's about to prepare a table in the presence of your enemies.
Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, the uncertified co-president of the United States, recently said on the Rogan podcast that the fundamental weakness of Western civilization is empathy. Did you hear what the richest man in the world said? He said the fundamental weakness of Western civilization is empathy. The inability to feel for others is at the root of what you are seeing take place in America right now. They don't have any feelings for the 5.8 million blacks that are getting ready to be purged off of Medicare. They don't care, have no feeling for the 64% of those who are on Medicaid that are black because the wealthy have private doctors. They don't care about immigrants being criminalized because as a white South African, he has a white privilege while melanated Africans can't get a visa. Don't tell me you feel me if you gotta put on gloves to touch me. Psychology Today recently published an article by Dr. Douglas Lieber that has boldly pronounced that America has a newly classified disease. And the new classified disease is empathy deficit disorder. Empathy deficit disorder. It's what happens when you are unable to step outside of yourself in order to step into somebody else's experience. Empathy is different from sympathy because sympathy is understanding somebody's pain, whereas empathy is identifying with somebody else's pain. I used to tell young preachers, when you go comfort somebody whose mother has just died, don't tell them you know how they feel when your mama's still alive. I am not asking you to feel sorry for me. I'm asking you to get in the foxhole with me. You got to be able to feel what I feel. And if you can't feel what it is that I feel, then you will stand in the jury box and not the witness stand. If you don't understand what it feels like to be black in America, don't you pass judgment. You got to know what it feels like for my heart rate to accelerate anytime I see police pull up behind me. You got to know what it feels like to be vulnerable as a woman, to walk through a parking lot by yourself and you hear footsteps coming up behind you. You got to know what it feels like to not get your prayers answered but still have a prayer life. You got to know what it feels. Years of having inequitable education opportunities. 300 years of medical apartheid. Now Target, Walmart, McDonald's, John Deere, Amazon feel like this is going to break us. This is not our first rodeo. But the thing that they can't understand is after everything that we've been through, we still got our hope, still got our joy, still got our peace, and we still got our relationship with God. Come on, I can't hear anybody. Do you understand the mental torture you've been through in the last 45 days? Mental torture you've been through. That now segregation is legal again. The emotional torture you've been through. That every police officer's record has been cleaned. The torture that you've been through. That now teachers got to second guess, can they teach their own history to students that look like them without losing their funding? Can you imagine the torture that you've been through just in the last 45 days? That many of you, your children will no longer receive free lunch beginning in August. The torture that you've been through. That there is absolutely no sympathy or grace for veterans or for seniors. The torture that you've been through. But be not dismayed. Whatever the tide, God will. He'll take care of you. When you've been picked on, harassed, and bullied for so long, you begin to feel helpless. James Weldon Johnson said, God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, the one who's brought us thus far along the way. 300 years of degradation. 300 years of being marginalized and ostracized. 300 years of being castrated and lynched. Was utilizing the idea of moral imagination. Moral imagination is the ability to anticipate or project yourself in the middle of a moral dilemma. Not even having reached adolescence, she figured that segregation